All right, hello again, everybody. So I suppose Russ is going to do another Gorlic review today, this evening. I apologize for not doing this earlier, but I had more stuff to take care of on this afternoon. Um, so let's see what else Gorlic did. Chantal worried they have no cash, washer or fridge. Salah took her to
So this is my
immigration
mom.
office.
This is my grandma.
Okay.
I recently posted a.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. So Chantal went live for about an hour
Wait a
last
minute,
night.
let me restart.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. So
You gonna laugh at this video too, Gorlic?
Chantal went live for about an hour last night. A lot of her stances on things changed. A lot of her story kind of modified itself. Of course, the fan is blasting. She picks up Julia, who wants down right away. We kind of see this huge rip in the arm of her hijab. She said that she just woke up and she kind of jokes and laughs about the hole in her sleeve, which she knows as a Muslim she should not be showing herself this way. She also shows her leg later on to prove the swelling has went down, and she's just eating fruit right away. She claims that Julia starts to eat plastic because she, quote, lacks survival skills. And there's this long discussion about not knowing where she is. So she clearly doesn't realize or understand where she is in Syria. She, though, doesn't know how far away from certain landmarks she is, but is aware of how far she is from other landmarks. And there's people in the chat, I firmly believe, that are trying to piece together where she is based on these time differences she's giving.
Oh yeah.
So, for example, they ask her, how far are you from the KFG? She
Uh-huh.
says about an hour and a half. They
Oh.
start listing off other cities that are about an hour and a half equally away from a center point, and she gets very nondescript about these answers. It's
Okay.
strange that she does not know where she is. She claims that Salah told her, but she forgot. She's embarrassed to ask him again. If he's watching
So many excuses.
these videos, or if it's possible that he's in the chat, why does any of this matter?
Yeah.
She doesn't
Why?
want to say where she is based on everything that's happened. I think everyone holistically would agree that that would be a good idea. She also does learn that Abizer has passed away. She does seem upset by this. She says that she feels like she lost a member of her family. However, in real time, 5 minutes later, she's laughing about losing a toothbrush.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about how she struggled with the heat, how movement is very hard. They did go to Damascus. As I mentioned, they went to the KFG. Apparently, she almost got sick in the restaurant. She blames this on, this long period, which we know is, 5 days, 7 days of her not having fast food or not having fried foods, and all of a sudden making her sick. She also claims the washing machine they just bought, if you recall, it has stopped working.
Okay.
The refrigerator that they just got, according to her, started shaking and went bad. Sounds like a compressor issue, Chantal. They are resorting again to using the cooler they have. She claims that she's going to scrub the sink down so they can wash their clothes. So I guess this means for the full week, unless maybe the washer was good for one wash, that they weren't able to do any wash, dry anything. I guess it just goes outside. And she says that, Salah needs to be outed because he's complaining more than her, that when he lays down, all he wants is cold water. I would imagine that Salah is doing a lot more physically than Chantal is.
Okay.
And we're going to learn about that in just a moment, because they start to talk about, going to the KFG, how long it took her to get there, how she has these skinny ankles. She goes on to talk about going to the immigration office.
Oh,
and how
for
hot
what?
the building was there. How she kind of lays this scene that the building is kind of in the middle of the city, and it is just surrounded by a crowd of people that are waiting to more than likely get out of Syria. and that
Uh-huh.
because the building has no air conditioning, when you walk in with this abundance of people on the outside and inside, it's very hot. That Salah had to grab her by the arm and physically pull her through all these crowds. He then had to pull her up these stairways, which are very shallow and also very narrow. So she was having a very hard time going up these abbreviated steps. By the time that she got up to the top, she almost felt like she was going to faint. She was
Uh-huh.
covered in sweat. She said that kids were, selling water outside, but Salah instead opted to get her a slushie. And then
Oh,
ultimately they realized they didn't even need to be at this specific building, that they have to go somewhere else.
okay.
And this kind of opens up the discussion of, what are you doing? Where are you going? How come none of this seems planned very well? She talks about going back to Canada.
Uh-huh.
And the next time she does this, she intends on bringing Salah. But then she
Okay.
talks about not wanting to travel because Julia is going to make travel a burden. And that now
Oh, great.
Salah, instead of traveling and wanting to see the world like he had honestly wanted to do while they were in Kuwait, it was all we heard about. Well, now Salah just wants this simple life. He wants to move into the house. That's why they're
Mm-hmm.
only staying in this area for about 15 days.
Great.
It's just odd. The
Yes,
whole
it is.
situation of not just the story changing, but her changing how Salah was speaking about wanting to live life in such a
Yeah.
short time. You would assume that given the circumstances they're in, right, it would be
And let me
natural
ask
for
you this. What the fuck is it that she did with him while they were at that office? Did she make a fool out of herself?
someone to just get out of the situation,
Or did she want them to take her seriously?
want to get out of the situation no matter where they go. So she says overall, right now her intent is to stay longer in Syria because
Uh-huh.
she is Salah's wife. But they don't have access to cash. The ATMs apparently don't work. The banking system is probably still in its infancy stages after the rebuild. That's why she said if you look at travel advisories, they all say bring the amount of cash that you have because you're going to need it, or at least prepare to have the cash that you need. So this is making it very difficult for her. She
Uh-huh.
goes on to say that her marriage certificate was recognized in Syria, that if worse comes to worse, they might just go over to Turkey. She talks about her visa issues and struggles at the airport and how, this interim government has made everything a challenge. I would personally think it would be easier if there is no real structure in place to get in and get out. And she claims, though, that this interim government makes it more challenging to do so, but it's also why things like YouTube and PayPal can function.
Yes.
She also seems to have some real discrepancies with her passport and her visa. She's claiming, since they stamped her passport, she must have a visa. Chantal, that is not how it works. And I think what's going to happen is chasing Salah around the globe. Okay, you're going to have real challenges when you go back to certain countries because they're going to want to know, why were you in this country? How long were you in this country? What was your intention? It's not as simple as going from point A to point B. They're
Correct.
going to want to know true reasons why you were there. And
Correct.
sitting there and saying, well, my husband was there is not going to work. They've heard
Yes,
these stories
exactly.
time and time and time again. I'm a
Well,
travel YouTuber, but I didn't do any travel content while I was there. Doesn't work. I understand, I think most of us do, that your intentions are not negative, but at the same time, you're going to be approaching people that are going to be very skeptical of all these places you've been for very short periods of time. And you basically sitting there and saying, well, my husband is a Kuwaiti Syrian man that I travel all over the country after I go home to follow. And sometimes I have to go into different countries that I've never been before for short periods of time with no known address, and I can't tell you where I was staying. Chantal, I mean, that is not setting you up for success.
uh-huh.
She goes on to say that the family house apparently is going to be ready in a couple of weeks, that, Salah
Of
just grew up in
course.
Kuwait. It was never his permanent residence. So
Yeah.
that's why, he's really not upset about leaving. She honestly, I'm just going to say it again, she has really derailed his life.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes on to say that, due to, quote, some issues, he had to leave. But it doesn't really matter because, Salah was in Kuwait and that's the only reason she was there. That's also the only
Mm-hmm.
reason she's in Syria, is following him around, and she's admitting, yeah, I played some role in why he left. Of course,
Uh-huh.
she says now that she's left, she can be honest. She wasn't honest before, but Kuwait would be better if you had money. As an expat, you can't work there and be happy. She
Mm-hmm.
talks down about the living conditions and says she's not going to pretend that they don't have any social problems there. But, before nobody understood. She just couldn't talk about how she felt because it wasn't acceptable. And of course, she
Uh-huh.
kind of wraps everything up in an hour. As soon as Salah wakes up, you can tell as soon as he wakes up, she wants to get off. And it's
Yes, of
interesting
course
because
she
I've mentioned
does.
it before, limited resources.
Yup.
He wakes up and she is just sitting there, burning the electricity, streaming, has the fan, charging phones, and saying, oh, well, I'm going to try to stay in Syria longer, but I have to get off. Salah just woke up. I feel like he probably woke up and realized, listen, we're dealing with limited electricity. Probably has asked her multiple times, be mindful of what you're doing, but also understand, you do have to make money. Sitting online for an hour to 2 hours is not what your viewers have asked for. So stop providing that to them because you're bored and have nothing
Mm-hmm.
else to do. In
Yeah.
Kuwait, it's probably a little easier because they have much better infrastructure. But here, it's just amazing to me to watch someone sit there and waste resources, be it electricity, be it food, in a country where their neighbors are likely struggling in a way she'll never understand because to her, this is just a temporary stay with Salah. What is
Of
not
course it
temporary
is.
is these top comments. They were the top comments for quite a while. Also not
Oh,
temporary is
yeah, okay. I think Salah is passively trying to make her as uncomfortable as possible on top of her discomforts already, so she will leave. Like talking to his friends on the phone, loud during the day while she's trying to sleep, not getting food she wants and mocking her to eat fruit instead. Talking about weight loss surgery, taking time to figure out the solar battery stuff, prolonging the issue, making her go visit with people and walk around, etc. He doesn't want her there and he is over her crap. You can hear it in his voice and how he talks to her. 0 F's given. Mm-hmm.
how much I appreciate you watching this video. And when Chantal says this is temporary, but it's not, we're going to stay in Syria. Wait till we get us home. I might not be able to leave. I don't know whether I've got a visa or a passport. There's no way. Gonna be
Yeah.
back as soon as I can with more commentary.
All right. Oh. Yeah. Her and Salah are going to continue to be nightmares until the day they both die. All right. That's it for me. That's it for me for tonight. I will see you guys later. Bye.